we are working our way towards ownership of the main hub, and that main hub is going to sell for $1 billion over the next 10 years, no doubt.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to a new episode of the Stick Talk podcast here with our boy Antonio. And Antonio is an ex-MLB draft prospect, I believe, and also an owner of a wealth management company or now a financial advisory company. How do you explain it again?
Yes, it's more so on the business consulting side. Used to be in the financial services space, and then we kind of transitioned, which I'm sure we'll get to, more towards like away from selling products specifically, more towards a strategy around helping business owners. Still got the wealth management side of things, but it's definitely not the predominant company.
Yeah. Bro, as soon as I heard like those details about who you are, I'm like, dude, this is like the next Ed Milet. I'm like, this is like our like cool. Launch pad to having Ed Milet on the podcast one day. Sure. And I know that's how we initially connected too, is like, I think I sent you an episode about Ed Milet, or I'm like, you got to check this guy out because like he sounds like he has the same story as you.
He was funny a baseball player too, right?
Yeah, literally the same story.
It's funny enough, when he sent me you sent me a voice note when I was in El Salvador about like, hey, your story relates to Ed Milet. I was the next week I met Ed Milet in Vegas.
That's nuts.
Like we got to speak on the same stage. It was so cool. Such a cool environment.
That's awesome. Yeah, same story. He was ex-MLB.
You guys even have like a similar type look.
Yeah.
The hair.
I'll take it, man. Guys,
you're probably a bit taller than him. He seems like somebody who's probably a little bit shorter.
Yeah, he's a little shorter, but he's a stud nonetheless for sure.
What a beast.
Yeah, I love that guy. Yeah, I think I sent you a podcast or something, but we ended up connecting because you're a part of Matt Moore's group that I'm in as well, Elevate. And we just had a lot of similarities, Joey and Gabe from Default King. So this should be a fun one, just diving more into your story and hearing what you're all about. And yeah, we have a lot of similarities. So
I'm excited to get into it, boys. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. So take us back to what that was like. Sounds like your plan was set on becoming a pro baseball player, and all that was kind of just disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, ex-MLB draft prospect sounds cooler than it really is. So, I mean, let's bring about like 20 years. I'm 27 now. So, like, up until, like, back till I can't remember, all I did was play baseball. Like, my parents even talked to me about when I was a kid, 2-3 years old, I was sleeping with a baseball bat and a glove. Like, literally all I cared about. Like, some people are blessed with, like, able to sing. Some people are blessed to copyright. I was blessed to, like, throw and hit shit. That was, like, that was my thing. Am I good to curse on this? I didn't even ask. Cool.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Cool. So that's that. I have a potty mouth for sure. And so with that, like I was always good at school, but just because I knew I had to get it done, not because I actually cared. And baseball was it for me. So I went to boarding school for high school. So grew up in New York. Always grew up super upper middle class. So like I got everything I ever wanted in life. And my only problem was that I had no problems. I was like it was a lot of complacency in my world because I always was able to get what I wanted. And with that, I went to this boarding school in North Carolina, all boys boarding school, graduated with 40 kids in high school. And that's kind of where I met Landon, my business partner today.
Oh, wow.
He had convinced me to play on the football team. And I was the slowest guy on the field, played wide receiver, and was the number one receiver on the team. Just because we had a connection, you know, like...
He was
like
quarterback? Or?
Yeah, he was a quarterback.
That's sick.
And through that, we stayed in touch. I went on to play college baseball, played Division I baseball, and then the only thing that I was set on was playing in the major leagues. And had no other backup plan, didn't really care about college, had graduated with like a 3.9, but just transparently because I cheated. And like that whole, my ability to find a way to cheat, manipulate the system was actually more valuable than the shit that they were teaching in college. So
relatable.
With that, go through 4 years of baseball, all region, all state, all this stuff, finished the end of my college career. My senior year, batted .350, threw out like 85% of runners behind the plate. I was a catcher.
Oh, nice.
And was told by the Angels or the Red Sox that they were going to draft me. And so my season ends like super abrupt, which I'll show you guys after this. I've shown the clips to so many people. Kind of went viral on Instagram. I got thrown out of the regional championship game to get to the College World Series on some bullshit for no reason. No. And we should have won that game. And so my college career ends. I'm like, all right, cool, I'm going to get drafted. Don't end up getting drafted. And at the time, like I said, I grew up not really having many problems. So I didn't have any like foundation to really like go through adversity much in my life. The only adversity I ever hit was like you strike out sometimes or you ground out, right? And so with that, instead of pushing through, and I had a bunch of like professional opportunities to play overseas and do all these different things, I was like, those are all a dead end. You see people chasing this dream for, 10 years just to have a bunch of kids and wind up broke and, not being able to do anything with their lives. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to go figure something out different. And that sparked just a large depression, a massive identity crisis of like, I was Antonio. At the time, I went by Anthony. That was like my real name's Antonio, but I went by Anthony my whole life. And I was like kind of ashamed who Anthony was because I never really cared about consequences. I was always, trying to make people's lives better, but never really cared about manipulating to get my way at the same time. Was never really conscious, didn't really have God in my life. And so with that sparked like a long 6 to 8 months bout of depression, just drugs, alcohol, bad relationships, all that stuff, until I had this moment where I was in the car and I was so disgusted with myself. I was like, it was like that look in the mirror moment when you're just like, dude, like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing with your life? You have so much potential and you're not using it at all. You're just laying in bed watching Jack Ryan. That was like the popular show at the time. I remember
Good
it
show, bro. Good show.
Great show. I mean, if you're going to lay in bed depressed,
that's a good one to watch.
So this was what, 4 or 5 years ago then?
Yeah, so this is like 5 years ago. Yeah, so it's crazy how like I'm talking about it like it's forever ago. Yeah, and so with that, I take this video. I just take my phone out and just take this video of myself, just like basically cursing myself out. And through that, I think over the next couple of days, that was like my knock on the door to the universe, like to show, hey God, like I'm ready for more. And through that, I had met some awesome people that were successful that taught me mentorship, personal development, books. Got into a sales job, which got me more into like the competitive environment. Like I feel like sales and entrepreneurship is the only other way to kind of simulate team culture.
Yeah,
like
sports, absolutely.
Because there's like a goal, we have a team, we try and win. There's metrics to actually like win or lose. And so that kind of sparked my excitement again. And then I reignited with Landon because we both got into sales on the financial services side. And we were kind of just doing traditional wealth management where like, you find your friends and family, sell insurance, sell investments and get paid and figure it out. And he was doing it with one company, I was doing it with another. And we are like, hey, let's just like stay in touch and make sure that we're just like sharing best practices and continue and connect because, we love each other, let's stay connected. And through that, we were like, screw it, let's just start a podcast. And at the time I was like, we should start this podcast talking about ourselves until we shortly realized that nobody wants to listen
cares.
to two 23-year-olds talk about any bit of success when we have none of it.
Yeah.
And so we quickly started to leverage people that were successful to come on our podcast, learn through them, take it as free mentorship because we couldn't afford the mentorship at the time, and radically implement every single thing that they were telling us. Somehow, we didn't think about it at the time, but that started to really build our network because we deposited a lot of value into those relationships in whichever way we could. We'd send them a gift or we'd connect them with someone, share everything on Instagram, all that stuff. And that ended up landing into some like really big joint ventures to where we kind of quit our jobs, started an agency model where we had a couple key relationships that were sending us 500 to 1,000 warm leads a month. Like not warm, like sizzling hot leads a month.
Really?
For what service?
This is financial services, specifically around like the life insurance space. And it became a really solid operation, but it felt really transactional because it wasn't like, it didn't really juice me up because you have to fit a square inside of a circle when it comes to recommending something.
And you probably weren't involved with like the actual management or fulfillment. It was probably like you had preset policies that you would sell.
So we were doing it the right way in terms of like fitting it inside of the mold of like what they truly needed, that it could be valuable, but there's people that just don't need this specific product because their cash flow doesn't allow it.
Yeah.
Right. Like these types of products are designed for people that are starting growing businesses, have surplus cash flow and all those types of things. And so with that, we decided to kind of sell off that book of business because it didn't really just excite us anymore. It's like somebody that needs to run paid ads as a strategy and you're just trying to shove cold email down their throat, right?
Yeah.
Even though cold email works. So client ascension, the best. And so with that, we kind of just like found ourselves lost for a second and like, hey, we really want to serve people in this industry because it's a great industry. But the industry is kind of old. People are just kind of pitching high commission bullshit and trying to just get you to invest money randomly. But entrepreneurs need to keep money liquid. They need to understand a balance sheet that's in alignment with their vision. Like if you guys are trying to get to 100 million, not every dollar should go to Bitcoin. Even though Bitcoin has the potential to go high, you still need the liquidity to hire more people. You need runway, all these different things. And so when we exited, we had a little bit of a check and a little bit of a surplus. And I didn't even realize that like taxes came alongside that. Like, what do I do with taxes? Usually taxes is something like At the end of the year, I just call my CPA and
How much do I owe?
Yeah, how much do I owe? And if you're in entrepreneurship and you're not doing tax planning, you're leaving millions of dollars on the table over your lifespan. And so with that, we started to navigate that world and quickly realized that there wasn't really like a one-stop shop that was giving you unbiased advice for the advice sake only.
Yeah.
Every time we talked to a CPA, they'd give us advice based on how little work they had to do, plus how much they get paid. The financial advisor tries to optimize the strategy around how they get paid. Loan officers the same way, lawyers the same way. And so we decided to start this flat fee consulting model strictly for entrepreneurs. So our book of business is 100% entrepreneurs, and all in like this strategic stage 2 growth phase of their lives. So out of startup mode, have stabilized cash flow, but are navigating this murky water of what we like to call no man's land.
Yeah.
So no man's land is where like you're too small to be considered big, but too big to be considered small. And nobody really helps you navigate that world because a lot of people are going through it themselves. Yeah. So you can rather run or stay small and profitable. And some people just end up staying the same and they die. And so with that, we wanted to help people navigate that murky water through things such as like, as you're growing, how can we protect your assets? Because if you protect your assets with the right asset protection strategy, you only have to get rich once. So it allows you to, as lawsuits pop up, because it's inevitable, as you make more money, people are just going to come after it, making sure that you own your assets in such a way that there's arm's length distance between you personally and all of your business assets. We do that through creating a bunch of structure, parlaying that with making sure you have bulletproof insurance. Insurance is boring, but it's the first line of defense against a lawsuit. And then on the back end, like you guys specifically, a big partnership, your operating agreement needs to be ironclad and detail pretty much everything. God forbid anything went sideways. God forbid something happened to you, to one of your health and all that stuff. That's kind of like the risk management, boring side. Where most people come to us for is the tax planning side of things.
Tax planning.
Every single person feels like they're paying too much in taxes, at least in my experience. And most of the relationships that people have with CPAs are really like reactive. It's like we were just talking about, hey, I had all this money at the end of the year, tell me what to do. And if you're lucky, you meet with them in December, they tell you to like buy a car or get a retirement account. And if we're proactively keeping like good proactive books, we can start meeting in July and start like reverse engineering what your year is going to look like and start proactively tax planning. Hey, should we buy into tax advantageous asset classes? Should we start using things like the Augusta rule? And we can feel free to get into that at some point. But making sure that we're super proactive. And our job is not to file the taxes, but to really bring the strategy to the CPA and then see it through to implementation. Then we focus on the balance sheet and just really prepping for growth. So I think a huge piece that's missing in entrepreneurship is understanding your cash flow. So like a lot of people when they're growing, they don't think about like ever hiring a CFO or even a fractional CFO or even a bookkeeper. And they never really get a pulse on their cash flow, both personally and on the business side. Yeah. And you end up having this massive lifestyle creep because you don't even understand what your cash flow is. So as your business makes more money, you think you're technically making more money, but really all you're doing is making more revenue.
Yeah.
And so with that, how can we really understand our margins and then reverse engineer what our expenses are based on the margins we want to have in the business? That comes with using a system like a Profit First, if you're ever familiar with that.
Yep.
It's a really cool system that I think a lot of people could benefit from. And then ultimately making sure that your balance sheet is in alignment with where the company wants to go. And that doesn't mean that you shouldn't extract some of the wealth out of the business and go build your own portfolio. But if you have a goal to get the business to where you need it to be, you have to make sure that you keep cash in the business. And then lastly, reverse engineering all that to make sure that we're looking at an exit based on what that strategy is. So like, if I want to exit for $50 million, how do I actually extract $50 million from this company? And then make sure I'm not giving half of it to Uncle Sam. And if you're proactive, you can do that. So
what does that look like? We got a company list kit that we're planning to exit for hopefully 50 million or more. Like, what do you start doing at this stage 2 or 3 years out before an exit? Because you've gone through an exit, right? So you can speak to this.
It was a little bit more nuanced because our exit was inside of the specific wealth management space. So like you're selling your book to other advisors. Okay. So it's a little bit different than selling like a software, which I'm bullish on ListKit. So if you guys ever open up any share classes or any funding,
we can get you a shirt.
Perfect. I'll take the shirt. I'll take the QR code. So with that, one of the main things you want to do, obviously, make sure you have really clean books. Mm-hmm. So stop running personal expenses through the business if you do. For example, 4 of you guys own the business, to my knowledge, or maybe 5 at this point. All of you guys should probably have some bit of a management company that has a flexible agreement with the main company that allows you to get paid out, and you run all of your lifestyle and tax plays through that entity. So now you guys don't have to share in those tax plays, and you get 100% of the deduction on that side.
Yep.
You could get aggressive inside of that company because it's not designed to sell.
Yeah.
The list kit's designed to sell. So we want to keep the P&L really clean so that we can get the best multiple on EBITDA. Then you want to strategically identify ways to increase your cost basis into the company organically. So finding ways to deploy capital that allow you to get technically unreimbursed business expenses that allow you to build up the balance sheet, but also increase your technical investment into your company. So when you do go to sell, your cost base is a lot higher than like the couple thousand you might have put into it in the beginning.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Okay. And how does that help? Like, why does that matter?
Because basically when you sell a business, right, you guys probably all put, let's just say hypothetically, 10 grand each to start up the business. And then the business bootstrapped itself from there. And I'm just riffing now.
Yeah.
But let's say your initial investment was 40 grand. You sell it for 50 million. You owe taxes on the difference between 40 grand and 50.
Okay.
Obviously with all the different expenses that you built up along the way. But if we can keep money liquid, build up assets on the balance sheet that also increase the cost basis, now you're still building up a healthy business, but also organically increasing the cost basis. So now
So it's less
maybe
of
I
a
invested
margin.
10 million and now I owe a lot less in capital gains.
Wow. Okay.
Damn, that's crazy.
So how did you learn all? Were you in school for finance? Did
No.
you go to school to get
Crazy enough, I learned all this stuff within the last like year and a half.
taking courses, self-interest?
One of our business partners, so like the one thing that I left out is so Landon and I, who's my main business partner, we started this consulting strategy, but we didn't even know what the hell we were doing, dude. We were just like trying to figure it out along the way and like begging to take on clients, all that stuff. And then we met this gentleman by the name of Claudio Gambin, who's our third business partner now. He's awesome. And he's been doing this for a while, and he's built a really big business doing this. And he basically came along. Somehow I crazy event, which I won't go through right now, but basically I found myself on a private jet with just me and him. And we went to the Bahamas, had like the craziest 36 hours of our lives. And then me and Landon pursued him until we're like, hey, we want what this guy has. We're going to pursue him and annoy him until he tells us to shut up. And he never told us to shut up because he knew that we could be valuable inside of what he was building. So he offered us two options. He was like, hey, I believe in you guys so much that I'll lend you $500,000 to go build your own thing. And then you guys just give me like a secured return. Or I'll give you all of my infrastructure for 30% of the business and you don't ever have to hire an employee. I'll do all of it. And we're just like, yeah. If we had to try and do this on our own, we would be operating at much less than 70% margin. So we're like, dude, deal done, take it. We'll take your mentorship too. You know, all that. And so it's been super fruitful. And he's kind of like my first 3-4 months, all I did was shadow him, didn't take any client meetings. So like, thank God I had some money to save in the bank because I wasn't making anything.
Yeah.
And then we kind of went off on our own. And then the specific client avatar that we serve forces you to level up on a daily basis. I think where people get it wrong is that you think you have to come across as if you know everything. But if you lean into not actually knowing anything and understanding that you letting your client know that I'm just going to go find the solution no matter what, I'm going to work my ass off to find that solution. Eventually you end up, creating a knowledge base around all this stuff. And then eventually being able to create original IP around it. So with that, it was just 6 to 10 months of just taking meetings, not knowing anything, running ChatGPT on the meetings and figuring it out.
Damn.
And then we started to consult people through the exits and all these things. And, we're not the main, we're the person that's going to project manage everything inside of what we like to call their fractional family office.
Yeah.
And we're going to build out all of the other players around it. So we're going to make sure that your CPA is in alignment with your lawyer, that's in alignment with the financial advisor. And we're just consulting on the high level strategy and they're going ahead and making sure that it gets implemented.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So,
Dude, go into the networking side of things because I'm a big proponent on digital networking, in-person networking.
I mean, that's similar story that we had starting the
networking at a
podcast in
sports
college.
event. Right.
So,
100%. But I'm just the Bahamas story. You got to elaborate. How do you go from a vendor in the Bahamas to a business partner?
Sure.
I guess explain the story of how you met your partner now and how you were able to leave a good enough impression on him to partner up.
Yeah, great question. So that's kind of if there's one thing that I will pride myself on and give myself credit for is my ability to strategically build relationships that benefit other people so much to the point where they eventually want to help me out.
Yep.
Without ever asking for anything in return.
Yeah.
And so with that, I learned from this guy, and I'll keep his name out, but basically he was a guy that we created a lot of these what we like to call ecosystem mergers, which people call joint ventures at this point. And we learned a lot from him. It turned out to not be the best guy, but I learned a system of how to build rapport with people in such an organic way that you can go from hello to yes with integrity anywhere. And it's literally a system of just asking 5 questions, but like finding a strategic way to ask them. So like instead of like going out and I'll get to the Bahamas story, but instead of like going out to a networking event, which all are like, most of us hate, like at least for me, like they're so cringe, dude. It's just like everyone's
so
trying to sell everyone.
transactional.
Yeah. Which is why having a podcast is a game changer, because you don't have to ever like intrude on someone to try and do business. It's like, yo, let's get you on the pod. And so with that, I'm never trying to sell anybody on any of my stuff when I meet them. It's literally, one, tell me about your story. So like, Andre, you built an awesome business. Like, dude, you're so young. You have so much success so far. Like, tell me like how you got here.
Yeah.
That's question number 1.
Yeah.
Now I get you talking about yourself.
Yep.
Now where are you at today? Like, talk to me about like where the business is at. What's the vision? Like, where are you guys headed? Paint that vision to me. What are some struggles that you're facing? Like, what's the bottleneck? And then talk to me about some of like the best wins. If I get through those 5 questions in a way that doesn't sound robotic, you've talked to me about yourself for at least 10 to 15 minutes. Now you love me.
Yep.
It's just like kind of, people
Inevitable.
love talking about themselves. And then eventually, like if they're some bit of human, they'll eventually ask you what you do. And then if
They
you
just
have a
walk
value
away.
proposition that fits them, then you just, like your value proposition can get crafted to what they do. Like for example, if I do want to eventually do business with someone and a construction company, a construction owner ever talks to me about something, I will craft my offer around like, hey, I usually help people that normally don't think that they could sell their business actually create a sellable business, because most construction companies, they don't even know that they can sell. Yep. And so with that, we started to do that at scale with the podcast. And that podcast resulted in like, we created a relationship with David Meltzer. If you guys are familiar with David Meltzer,
of course,
arguably the best network on the planet.
Yeah, for
he's
real.
the best.
Yeah.
And we had him on. I cold DM'd him, had him come on. We asked him for referrals for the podcast. And he basically was like, I'll do you guys one better. I liked your interview. I'll give you access to my entire agency. So entrepreneurs pay him to come on, to get them on other people's shows. So now we're in their network of podcasts that they send people to.
Wow.
Over the last 3 years, they've sent us probably 200 to 300 people.
Oh my God.
And with that, we've created, and now that's a ripple effect, because now like those 200-300 people send us
a couple
4
more
or 5
hundred,
people
yeah.
each. You know, it's a massive ripple effect. And so with that, we created an entire standard operating procedure, not around growing our podcast for views, but making the guest experience so amazing that they feel really good about us, and then like
They just wanna work with
shit
you.
just happens.
Yeah.
You know, so like when we meet them, we're always sending like really good service before we meet them, you know, making sure that everything's confirmed, using our executive assistants to do all that stuff. Then we send them a really strategic gift that has nothing to do with us. Where people go wrong, in my opinion, is they send gifts with their logos on it. And I don't think that's like, I don't think that's a bad thing, but more strategically, if you send people gifts with their company logos on it, or like their family name or something like that, even better, like if you find out what their wife likes, if you could get the wife on board with anything, she's ultimately the decision maker anyway.
Yeah.
So with that, we strategically send a gift. If they're any type of human, they email us back saying, dude, thank you so much. Like, then we're just, continuing to connect. I'm thinking through, when I'm on a podcast, 4 to 5 people to immediately connect them with that's going to benefit their business. So for example, they tell me that they're having a bottleneck on the client acquisition or want to diversify, immediately they're getting put in a group chat with Andre or, one of the
Yeah,
boys
we've
here.
literally seen this happen. Like, since we started working together, we've probably had like 5 or 6 group chats.
100%.
Like, literally in the last week.
Yeah, and we don't even have an affiliate agreement yet, hopefully. And so with that,
we will.
it makes selfishly...
We got the
makes
checks coming through, don't worry.
It puts us in a good light of just like serving the client and you guys doing good business, that like eventually that goodwill comes back to us in some way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so with that, the way that I ended up on this jet was right after I sold that book of business. I was in Miami, and this guy that I sold it to, he was like, hey, we're taking a jet from Pennsylvania to Bahamas for a couple days. Do you want to come? I was like, fuck yeah, I do. But I don't like flying planes enough to go to Pennsylvania, then to go back to Bahamas. Well, I could swim to the Bahamas from Miami.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, no, don't worry. Claudio could pick you up on his jet. I was like, oh, that sounds cool.
That's fine.
So Claudio picked me up in Boca Raton. And then, we were just chatting. And I refrained from telling him about myself because I knew that I wasn't going to impress a guy like that.
Yeah.
This guy's wearing a $200,000 watch and picking me up in a jet. Like, I'm not... Like, there's nothing that's going to impress this dude, and he's 35. So, with that,
wow.
I'm just throwing the 5 questions at him and just really getting to know him because, like, selfishly, I want to figure out what this guy's doing. And then he eventually asked, like, oh, like, what does your model look like? And I kind of told him everything that I just told you. He was like, dude, like, no one's doing that in this industry. Like,
You're saying
So
like the podcasting model,
Yeah.
like bringing people in through that?
Yep. So like basically, because this industry is so outdated, man. Like
Oh, of
no one's
course.
doing any like unique business model, and so with that, we just like debauchery ensued over the next 36 hours, and we had a great time. Eventually, after that, he lives in Orlando, so it was a couple hour drive. We asked to continue to see him and sit on in his meetings and all these things, and then within 8 months, that partnership landed.
Wow.
Damn.
So literally, like, we sent him a gift, we did all these different things, and then like eventually, when you find a way to be so valuable, eventually you have the confidence to just continue to pursue someone until they tell you to shut up, because you know that they're going to benefit more when you're in the equation than not.
Yeah.
And it's like, it
Yeah.
sounds cocky, but it's like, it's just the truth. Like
Like when you know it, like you can go at it full
like
force.
if your offer can truly bring results in business, like you have an obligation to go tell everyone about it, that you can
Yeah.
help.
This is
And
why
so-
we bully people on Twitter. Like literally on the timeline, we bully people into joining Client Ascension. Like actually, what was the dumpster rental guy that just joined? Like literally from 4 days ago, he tweeted.
Oh yeah. It's like, I'll see you next week. I was like, all right, check your DMs, buddy.
He
Yeah.
joins like 4 days later.
I mean, you got to be foolish not to join your op. Like when I heard through your when I went through your sales cycle, which was like the most unique thing I've ever gone through, because I literally told your sales guy, I was like, hey, like you already earned your commission, bro. I talked to Andre. He comes from a good referral source. Like you don't need to sell me on shit. Just tell me how much it costs. Like we're good. Deals closed.
He probably still went through the whole call.
Yeah. I mean, we shortened it a little bit, but then like when I found out like what the ticket was, I was like, wait, there's nothing more to this, like no add-ons. But then I started to realize like we obviously love your service, but I love your guys' business model even more than just the service, because of how fully integrated you guys
Yeah.
are across all boards. And I see the vision, which is like why I respect the shit out of you guys. Not also because you guys are really cool guys. but,
appreciate it, bro.
what you guys are doing is pretty awesome. And inside of the space of like the money Twitter, the e-com stuff,
Yep.
all these things, there's a lot of like gurus and fake people building businesses that are just running up revenue and then trying to sell these things. You guys are building a brand and a unique business, and kudos to you.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, and the network's been a huge part of it, because I feel like the hardest part when a competitor is looking at like, okay, how can I take down Client Ascension, is like competing with our coaches, and you just can't, because it's from our personal network. Like the coaches that we pay to host coaching calls in like paid media and the VSL and Twitter growth and YouTube, whatever it may be, they don't need the money that we pay them per hour.
It's like
They-
the least attractive thing of the job opportunity.
Yeah, it's not about the competition. It's not like, oh, you can just buy our coaches for more. They want to be part of the community that we're building, because they know that if they stay with our community, we're just going to continue to give value back to them.
Yep.
It's a win-win. Similar to like the guy that you partnered with. He was probably like, you're like, oh shit, he has his whole infrastructure built up. But he's also probably saying, oh, I already have this whole infrastructure built up. If I bring in Antonio, like it's just going to 10x.
We're
over
his
time.
exit plan, basically.
Yeah.
That's his ability to build enterprise value through that model. He now does this with a bunch of other people. Then he's no longer needed inside of the company, because he's the only bottleneck. So that was the.
So you solved each other's problems.
Yep, exactly. He solved our problem of like trying to figure out a whole brand new business model and learning new IP, and we solved his problem of having to work 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
So.
I want to talk about an interesting caveat with networking though, because like you see a guy with the jet and the watch. I feel like the dynamic between him and most people are like, oh my god, cool jet, like love your watch. I feel like if you could just like bust his balls a little bit and be boys with him,
Like see through that.
it changes the whole dynamic.
Literally did not think anything different of him, and like you have to consciously subvert that of like trying to like flex when you're on the jet and stuff. Like it's not about that. When you're
Yeah.
with people that are like,
bro.
Yeah.
it's like when you're with people that are like really fucking like
Doing it.
real in business, like it's not about that. I mean, like he's saving money by flying on the jet most of the time,
Yeah.
because of how valuable his time is.
Yep.
And so with that, it's like, hey, let me stop thinking about how I can like look up to this guy, which I think there's still some level of giving people acknowledgement that makes them feel good. So it's like when they tell you something, like give levels of praise and acknowledgement, but do it strategically. Don't do it to just like
Just
suck them up, suck
Yeah,
up to
glaze
them.
them.
Yep, I had to struggle with that too. That's the word. Yeah, that's the new word. That
Yeah,
I'm not on
It-
Twitter.
it's
enough to
acknowledgement
get
about
around
the
it.
right things, though. It's not like, yo, this jet, like, oh my god, like, or that watch or those shoes.
Yep.
It's more so like, damn, you built like an incredible business, because that's what they take way more pride in.
Yep.
At the end of the day.
I spent a month trying to figure out how to strategically, quote unquote, glaze Taylor Welch for this interview of like, hey, let me not like fanboy, because like this is consulting Jesus. Let me make sure that I'm strategically like giving him praise because this guy changed our lives, and this is my first time meeting him, but he's like been one of my leading mentors from afar.
How so? Yeah, because that's cool. Like Taylor Welch, we obviously had him at our event in October. We do a lot of work with him now. Like, what was the origin for him coming into your life and helping with your business?
Sure. So it's funny enough, we talked about this. We're actively in his moat that he talks about, the moat concept. And it started like I came across like maybe one of his newsletters that his copy is just
So
incredible.
good,
He's an amazing copywriter. And it just continued to pique my interest. And then like I got on his podcast, Daily Mind Medicine, kept listening to that.
Yep.
And then bought the consulting memos, and then got the Wealthy Consultant book.
Yep.
Now going to the event,
Yep.
I buy every single one of his courses. It's like this: if there's 3 guarantees in life, it's like death, taxes, and I'll buy everything Taylor Welch sells. And then like we're going to the event, then we're going to become a part of Chamber. Eventually, potentially work one-on-one with him. So like, I think he does it so well because that moat concept is something like. He didn't immediately try and cash in on the goodwill that he had with me because he probably could have tried to sell me a $40,000 product at the time. But since he didn't, my lifetime value of being a customer for him is so much higher.
Yeah. And he talks about that in the course, bro. Like he was saying, like conversion cycles for him is like 8 months. And that's like their goal. So like they're not trying to get you in a chamber when you first come across their content or like the newsletters or the memos, which is so smart.
So wait, I want to hear the process of strategically glazing. It's an outrageous term, but like when you're going through that, okay, this is a higher level person. I don't want to be like the person who's running up to their private jet and like pulling out a camera or just complimenting them on superficial things. Like how do you actually build like a real relationship there when you're an outsider?
Sure. Finding out ways, like what really juices them up outside of just like business. Like this is what I hated about the Miami culture, which is why I had to move, is like, in order to get a seat at the table, you have to basically say how much you're making a month. That's like,
or how many followers.
or how many followers you have. And all these guys are one IRS audit away from going out of business.
Bro, so true.
With that, the guys that are like truly building a real business that get it, all they do is talk about business all day. And so like, it's fun to still talk about business, but then let's talk about life. Let's find out tell me about your family. That's an easy one to learn about someone's family dynamic and then just learn their wife and kid's name. And then like, if you see them light up talking about that, just stay on that topic.
Yep.
And like over time, I think if you build that muscle, you stop thinking of like the cell in the back of your head.
Yeah.
Because always like, I think just in human nature, we're always going to try and figure out like what's in it for me. But if I could continue to just say like, what's in it for them? Who can I connect you with? Who's the best connection? Like, what are you guys struggling with that, I could potentially come in and fit? They just gain so much more respect. And I think we're in a culture now where technology is shifting things and like being able to get IP is so much easier. Like younger kids are just smarter than older people at this point. It's just happening, right? Not wiser, but
smarter
learning
with
more
what
at a rapid
is
pace.
available to them.
And so I think people that are really experienced in business are now open to allowing younger kids to bring value to them because of how rapidly things are changing. So I think they're less closed off. And if they are closed off, like they did you a favor because you just saved a lot of time not having to go build a relationship with that person.
Yeah. So I guess applying that to the Taylor Welch story, like what'd that look like? Because you were saying you had like a month of preparation going into the podcast and just working your way towards that.
Sure. So I immediately had talked to him. Like I basically talked to Taylor like I've known him my whole life. Like
that parasocial relationship.
Yep. So like I was involved with everything, but not from like a creeper level status at the same time.
Yeah.
Right. And so I had mentioned to him at the first, I was like, hey dude, like just letting you know, I know we have 30 to 45 minutes with you. I am not giving you an introduction. Like every one of our audience members knows the introduction, knows you.
Yeah.
They consult, they're on the consulting memo at this point, like give us an affiliate offer because like we're just driving so much traffic to you. And like that kind of like lightened up the mood and he was all good. And then like it was just incredible from there. We're just like, hey, like, I think I started the podcast off of like, it's been a year or two in the making since we've been trying to make this happen. And we're not going to give Taylor an introduction because if you don't know who he is, like you're living under a rock at this point.
Yeah,
and then, we just got into it, man, and had some really good like framework around the questions. And he quickly realized that we were playing the game. It wasn't like these the outsider questions of like, oh, like how much money you made, or like these people that are asking like random ass questions. He could tell we've done due diligence and also that we're actively going through it right now.
Yeah, implementing his stuff.
Yeah, so that's kind of how we ran that.
That's awesome, bro. Yeah, he's a good dude. Yeah, dude, the interesting thing when you like get into this world is like how like people can see right through it. Is like guys like Taylor, like they know like the way you approach them, like they know you're playing the game too. And so I feel like when you put your guard down and you're just there to serve them, right? Like you're with your business partner, with Taylor, you're just there to serve them, right? Through your podcast with Taylor, like opening them up to your audience so that they see the value that he could bring to their lives, or with this business partner, like giving him the opportunity to do the distribution model. Are you familiar with Myron Golden at all?
Dude, I love Myron Golden.
Myron, yeah.
Dude, he is
Dude,
the
this
man.
is whole concept.
Unbelievable.
It's just, you just serve people to the highest level, and that is the entire concept of doing business. That's it.
That's it. That's literally it. The only challenge with that is that people feel the need to have to take a shortcut because they're just focused on making money.
Yeah.
Right? And like that's I was actually thinking about it on the way over here, is like everyone's trying to chase this thing of being a millionaire, especially like kids in our 20s. Like we're all chasing like we have to be a millionaire, and the only reason we're doing that is to basically tell people that we're a millionaire, right?
Yeah.
Get the validation.
Now, why wouldn't I take most of the money that I'm making in this time right now and secure me being a millionaire for the rest of my life by buying new skills and buying relationships? That's kind of the way I've seen it, is like I've pretty much taken every bit of cash flow that I've made over these last couple of years and just bought new skills.
Yep.
And bought, like I pretty much buy my friends at this point. I say it's like kind of funny, but like if I want to do business with someone or like continue to level up, because like business ultimately is just like having fun with your friends. Like that's what I want to do. I want to have fun with people that are doing cool shit, and business is a vehicle to do that. And so if somebody offers a $10,000 like membership part of these things, and like I see it as a valuable community, I'm going to pay them. They ultimately see me in a better light because like they just got value from it.
Yep.
Now I'm bringing value to the community, entrenching myself in those communities, and making a win-win scenario over time. And so with that, I think a lot of people sometimes trying to subvert the steps that it takes to secure the future status over time. Like I'd rather be a millionaire for sure than try and be a millionaire and like then lose it the next day.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the route that we've been taking.
For you, how did you, or like at what point did you adopt this mindset? Because it's such a healthy one. And I'm going back to you in your car, like screaming at yourself. And then you get into sales, like you could still kind of be like a douchebag salesman and just make the money and put it in your pocket. Like, was it a certain podcast guest or somebody that like really struck a chord with you? Not only be like, I need to make a change, but also to just have this outlook on investing in yourself and caring about others more than just like the short-term gains.
Yeah, great question. So one, I found God. That was a huge part of it.
Yeah.
So now I have like this the higher being that I'm accountable to.
Yeah.
That, like
The fear of
is
God,
now,
bro.
yeah. Now he's watching when I'm alone. Because I was really, really good in my life of doing things when people were watching, and I got a lot of reward for that because I knew when people were watching, and I was always a hard worker, but I always knew to work extra hard
When
or
people
like
were watching.
look good in front of people.
Yeah.
But like even to the point of like once I got the fear of God in me, basically, I would pick up a wrapper that fell on the floor, like, or else I feel like I was gonna die. And so with that really sparked this like love for personal development, and I almost wish that I can go back to that time, because every single thing when I started like reading books or listening to podcasts was like a wow factor. You're hearing something for the first time, like you're learning how like money works, or you're learning how like relationships work, or all these different things in the personal development world that we're now so used to kind of seeing. And now all we have to do is just continue to reinforce, because there's nothing like really new. It's just hearing something a different way.
Yeah.
But that's where I didn't know it at the time, but I was building a system actively that allowed me to sustain my habits, because I read this book called Atomic Habits, which I highly recommend people read that and then parlay that with a book called The Compound Effect. And that has built this brand that we call Consistency Wins. So Consistency Wins is like our other trademark. I have it tattooed on my forearm. We built a community around it. It's over 100 people for free. And with that, that's the name of our podcast. And Consistency Wins to me comes from my thought process of always having to hit a home run every time I'm doing something. So for example, I get out of baseball, I go through this depression, I don't even work out for like 8 months. And so like while I was in great shape, then I'm in terrible shape. And you guys, like, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but once you stop going to the gym, if you reintroduce yourself and try and go too hard, you get too sore and you don't want to go to the gym.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was always happening. It was just this constant inconsistency. And so one day I woke up and I was like, let me just commit to something micro. Let me just win small today. And so with the gym, it was like, let me go walk around the block today. And then the next day, let me show up and like walk around the block again. And then eventually that started to, let me jog around the block. And then let me sprint Let me jog further. Then I started running triathlons and then marathons. And
Yeah.
like that stuff compounds, but you have to commit to the habits. And so the reason I bring up Atomic Habits is because it says this one line that I write on my whiteboard every day. Are my habits a reflection of who I want to become? And if I can answer that question every single day, I know I'm moving forward, no matter if I feel like I had a good day or not. Because now my habits dictate where I'm headed. The emotions no longer matter. Like my standard of what my habits are more important than the feelings that I feel in the moment. And so I built this system that allowed me to reverse engineer this long, daunting goal of wanting to do this massive thing to like, what can I do in this next day or minute? And I built it in such a way where I named it Build, where I can hit every single pillar of my life, in my opinion. So B stands for body. What am I doing for my body today? And initially I was like writing this down the night before, like what am I going to do for my build? And now it's like just built into me. And so like, what am I doing for my body? Am I going for that walk or am I doing yoga or going to the gym, whatever that looks like? Because like your body, I've just come to find like any time that you're in a consistent flow of exercising, your output is just so much better. You're a better person to the world. You're happier. You're making more money. It's
feel better.
You just feel better as a human. Then I is income. U stands for you. So like, what is it that I genuinely want to do today? So B is for body, U is for you. Like if you want to play video games at some point, build in the margin to be able to do that. Because ultimately you're building your life around what you want to do. So if you want to travel. And that comes like that also like gets supplemented with like really good calendar management so that you can build in the things that you want to do.
So this is every day?
Every day.
Got it.
I stands for income. What am I doing to push my income forward? And that's really down to like the KPIs of like, hey, are we making the right sales calls? Am I building the right relationships? Are we closing deals? Whatever metrics that you want to follow to make sure that you're pushing the income needle forward. L stands for love or relationships. How am I continuing to nurture the relationships that I have with my family, with God, with new people in the business world, all these different things? And then how am I building new relationships? So for example, like an action item in the love department is like, just sending 2 gratitude texts a morning to everyone in your contacts list. You know, it'll probably take you two months to go through everyone and then just kind of continuously recycle. And like one, that just sparks some more conversations than you possibly could even keep up with. But then 2, like you never ask for anything in return and people just feel really good about that. Like you're just depositing value. And then obviously having KPIs around building new relationships. And for us, it's like that's automated now with the amount of podcasts that we have. So now I'm not even thinking about all these different things. Then D stands for development or personal development. What am I reading? What are my inputs? Because ultimately, like that's really what I can control. If I can focus on my personal development, nothing else matters. Because if you're having any type of problem in anywhere in your life, if you focus on your personal development, it trickles down to everywhere else because it's usually a self-correction. So that's kind of how I've done it.
Dude, what a system.
That's so valuable. People got to write that down. I also love the thing how you start with body because it's so important. I feel like entrepreneurs can just get stuck in the rut of like, I need to like brute force my way out of this and just not take care of themselves. And I think it was Cole was talking about at his event. It was actually Mitchell Miles, the guy who runs their company, how like when sales guys are in a rut, he's like 70% of the time he found out it was just physiological. Because they'd get into a situation where they're not closing deals, so they feel like they have to work super hard, and they're just like eating Doritos and just like drink coffee.
I don't know, bro. Jordan just had food poisoning, and he closed
he
4
cleansed
deals
that shit
on
out
Monday.
of him. Cleansed that shit out of him. No, but dude, it's so true. Like I've started to do that on like one-on-ones. I'll be like, "Are you like healthy right now? Are you moving around? Are you exercising?" Yeah. It's actually made a big difference. Sure. You're like, yeah, I've been taking care of myself.
I take it to another. We don't hire fat people. I just come out and say it. Like,
I was gonna say,
I won't go to the extreme that I know he does it like provocatively for marketing purposes because now we're talking about it.
Because now it's like trendy.
You don't have to have a 6-pack to work with us, but like it's more so about like if you're not taking care of yourself. I don't care what you look like. It's like if you're not taking care of yourself and taking the actions, then how the hell are you going to take care of our clients? Because all that matters to me, like I lose sleep over not our side of the stuff. It's are my clients ever worrying about the value that we're giving? Yeah. And that, literally, I lose sleep over that. Because like,
where does that come from? Do you think it's ingrained through learning from a guy like Taylor? Or?
I don't really know where it comes from. I just truly believe that like if you're in services, like your client service and your client experience is the most important thing. If you focus on that, then like you could always fix everything else like internally in the business. But if you have a good client experience, like I don't think, people are always going to refer you. You'll always have a business.
I have a feeling that just goes back to you finding God. At the end of the day.
I think so,
because you can make a ton of money, but if the people who are giving you money aren't getting a good experience, you're just like, shit, I'm not adding any value to the world.
Feel guilty.
Yeah,
100%. 100%. And that's why like I couldn't, initially when I had moved to Miami, I was all excited to like meet all these people. And then I got into these networks using the same formula that I was telling you about. And I'm like having dinner with all these guys that are doing all these large things. And like, it's all the talk is so superficial. No one's talking
like
about
a lot
how
of
we can make our
entitlement,
clients
too.
better, or like how we can make the world better. How are we being charitable? It's just not a part of my core values.
Yeah.
And so I just couldn't relate. And I no longer felt the need to keep up with the Joneses because I've like developed enough evidence to my self-conscious that I became secure in what I was doing. Even though I was probably making less money than them at the time, I knew my stuff was going to be sustainable, and also I was going to be able to sleep better at night.
Yeah.
'Cause I'm
And money's
enjoying
not the only thing on the scoreboard either.
No, like just all you really need is enough cash flow to live, and then beyond that is like, let's go experience shit. Like, of course, we all want to be wealthy. We all want to make surpluses of money so we can continue to give back. But ultimately,
That's exactly what you just said right there. The reason you want to make more money is to do more of what you're already doing.
we could provide more client experience. We can give more stuff back. Like I strategically, no matter how up or down my month is, I strategically take 10% of whatever I made and deploy it. I no longer just like give it away to like random charities or just like throw it to the church. I find businesses that are serving people at the highest level, specifically with God at the forefront, and I just donate it to them.
Wow.
Like, for example, I donated to Elevate, and I donated to Gabe and their business. And so, like, I'm just constantly
so
on the
sick.
search for people to just continue to deposit value. And then, like, selfishly, that also puts me in a good light over time, too. You know?
Oh,
People-
of course.
you know? So-
Absolutely.
I feel like that's why it's important to go out in the world and be around people who you think of as like higher level people. Like one of the quotes I fucking hate is never meet your heroes. Like I think you actually should go meet people that you look up to, because half the time you're actually going to realize they kind of suck. And
Well
you're like,
said.
why do they suck? Then you start to really take inventory of like what's important, that kind of in a weird way helps you find your values. Where if like you're just running an agency and you're in, I don't fucking know, Nebraska, and like you're just seeing these guys on Instagram and TikTok, you're like, yeah, I mean that's perfect. Like I need that. That's all I need is like the Lambo,
Yep.
the Rolex. That's it. But like if you're around those people, you start to realize they're like, they actually don't have it all figured out. Not even close.
Dude, we're all human, man. I think, like, there's a lot of power in being able to, like, own the fact that we're all still trying to figure it out. Like, I've met people worth $500 million, like, all these different things. Like, they're all still trying to figure out. They like the best people that I've seen in the entrepreneurship space lean into understanding they don't know what they don't know.
Humility.
It's truly like that. That's how the best founders build the best businesses, understanding that they can't do everything. And so that's really what juices me up. And like what you said, man, is like, yeah, go meet your heroes. And like, maybe you will be disappointed, but that's okay. They're giving you an example of like how not to go about living your life at the same time.
Yeah, like if you were disappointed, it just means you were probably idolizing the wrong things in the first place. So it's good.
Yeah, it's a great
100%.
reminder of your core values. And I think that's something that is like a superpower for you, is you have such clarity around what your core values are. And you've built this system every single day to make sure that you're checkboxing every core value.
And sometimes it feels super robotic. Like
Yeah.
at time in the beginning when you're still trying to build a habit, like you're gonna sometimes force yourself to show up, like especially in faith, because faith is so like tough to just see a result.
Yeah.
So like it's like, oh, I'm gonna show up to read the Bible today and pray, but now I'm just like checking the box off instead
Yeah,
of
you like read
actually
the Bible
being
and then you like get up from your desk and you're like, I don't even remember what I just read.
Exactly. And so, you know, with that, I think the next level of that is having like you need to tap into community.
Yeah.
Tapping into community, I think we're going to see a really large reversal because of like how quick AI is moving in social media. We're going to really start to cling back onto the human connection side of things and just use AI as a superpower to help enhance that experience. But community, I'm like super bullish on community because like you need to be around people that are going through the same struggles as you. So like allow you to continue going. And that having that same standard and people to hold you accountable when you're ultimately not feeling that way, because I think all of us, at least I'll speak for myself, I actually fucking hate going to the gym. I just do it because I know that like the results are going to be great.
Yeah.
And I just know that like that's just part of the process. And so my standard now that I've created is above the feelings that I feel. And so if I do that more times than not, because there's going to be some times where like I'm just not feeling it, I'm just not going to go.
Yeah.
And I'm going to quote unquote lose there. But giving myself enough grace to be 85 to 90% on top of the money, like I'm cool with living my life that way.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man.
How do you balance that as an entrepreneur though? Somebody who has all these accomplishments every day, or has all these things that you want to accomplish every day. Inevitably, you're not going to go through every single one of them, and like you're going to have bad days, right, where you miss a few of those things. Like, so how do you balance not being super hard on yourself?
Sounds like.
If you find the solution, let me know.
Yeah.
Because I don't know the answer to
Yeah.
it. But I've actually had a massive breakthrough recently. I went on this retreat in El Salvador that I go on every year. I'm gonna invite you guys too, because like it's the most fucking powerful experience ever. It's
Really?
my favorite time. I go every year, every November, and it's a week in El Salvador with like some of the most people I love. It's like 30 to 40 people, and it's at like some surfing resort, and we just chill, have great food, have a great experience, do yoga, and just chill. It's no like none like ayahuasca. It's not this like ayahuasca.
Which is,
medicinal
dude,
mushroom
that's
trip.
like a
It's just-
scary thing for us, guys like us, who are just like output driven
Yeah.
always.
Yeah.
Just to do nothing for a week.
Literally do nothing, hang out in a hammock. And so
No Wi-Fi?
no, yes, Wi-Fi. I still take meetings.
Okay,
Don't
thank
get
God.
it twisted, bro. I'm not that crazy. So with that, what I started to create was I stopped trying to see happiness as like a specific destination, because it constantly led me to like disappointment, and I started to take stock in like the things that started to bring me joy, because we're seeing happiness as a noun when we should see joy as a verb, and really truly think about what brings us joy in that moment. And for me, I've identified that like laying in a hammock and competing are the two things that bring me the most joy, and like connecting with humans in a really cool light. So let me like go do more of that and stop thinking about what's next in that moment, because that's when like you're truly in flow.
Anxiety and
So how can I start to build my life and business around those things to where I can focus on everything that lights me up, and then all the monotonous tasks that have to be done, they could just be done by somebody else, which we could talk about in a second. But the breakthrough that I had was last November. I'm training for this marathon, and I go go for a run on the beach, and I run a 5K. And a 5K is like 3.2 miles, and I stop after 3 miles. And I was so mad. I was so tired. I was like, fuck, like
Couldn't finish
Like I
it.
couldn't finish. And I kept on like mentally just berating myself of just like all this self-loathe and self-hatred that keeps coming up, because it came from baseball, like quitting on myself when I was like still too good to continue playing. And I was like, every time you get to the point of about to be successful, you always self-sabotage, and you never let yourself actually see it through. And I like hated myself in that moment. I had a really good conversation with my friend of like, why do you, he basically challenged me to stop seeing things as searching for the answer for it, and just start asking better questions. And the answers are in the asking of the questions. It's not about finding the answer. It's about continuing to ask the questions, because that's like the process of it all. And so I really just started to lean into just like asking why I feel this way, and then like playing with those feelings. And then a really good book I parlayed that with is a book called The War of Art. It's the best book I've ever read. Like if anyone ever wants to get into reading, that and The Alchemist are like the two best books I highly recommend. The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield talks about this concept of resistance, and how we constantly like don't ever want to experience trials and tribulations, because like it sucks. We don't ever want to, like, we just wants to continue to make more revenue or build better relationships or not have any shit that happens in our lives, but that's just not life. And we start to realize that like the yin and the yang exists for a reason. Like joy only exists because like there's also sadness at the
there
same time.
has to be
right?
an opposite.
And so resistance is this concept that you start to lean into, and like this resistance shows up in ways where like if you start to lean into it, you realize that that's the way. And instead of trying to like fight resistance, you start to like love resistance and like be empathetic with resistance, and then just like pass through it and like just look at it like a door, and you're just opening it.
Yeah.
And I started to conceptualize that way, and that's kind of how I deal with it. It's like I started to learn grace for myself of like, hey, like I'm doing a lot, and I'm pushing myself hard. Like if I miss one thing, like I can live with it.
It's gonna happen.
You know?
Yeah, dude. Taylor's mind medicine stuff talks a lot about this. Like I'm going through a lot of his mindset training, and a lot of the same concepts, talking about happiness. The way he described happiness, or maybe it was from a book that he was reading, is like, it's your perception of like what's to come. Like happiness is just like your idea of like what's next. So if you like, for example, like when you're gonna go, you're telling us off camera you're gonna go to the Masters, right? Like the week leading up to you going to the Masters, you're just probably gonna be really happy and in a good mood, because you know like that's coming up and you're looking forward to it. So if you could always have something to look forward to, that was kind of how he like manipulated happiness.
How does he invent that though? Like what if there's not a major event?
You always have something.
I mean, think of our lives. Like we're not
There's
at a
always
super
something.
high level, but
I also feel like that helps if you can derive more joy from simple things.
That too. It doesn't have to be like going to the Masters, but like for instance, today we could have woke up and been excited and looking forward to having a podcast with Antonio.
Right.
It's like the opposite of like in business. You might wake up and be like, man, I have that call with that client at 3 p.m. that I'm not really looking forward to talk to because they're probably not going to be too happy with how things have gone so far. That could have the exact opposite reaction.
Sure.
So
I think it really comes down to what I was saying earlier of like creating, like understanding what actually juices you up, right?
Yes.
And like sometimes it's going to be like figurative. So like laying in a hammock juices me up. So like literally I like laying in a hammock, but then also like what is the action of doing, like the feeling of like relaxing and reading a book and being tuned out is what I really like, right?
Yeah.
And then same thing with competing. I like competing more. So like that's like
always
so like
priority.
So what I did was simple as this. I bought a hammock for my house, and I used to put the hammock in my office. Sometimes I'd take call from the hammock, and then I leaned into entrepreneurship more for the competition.
Yep.
Plus, I joined like a flag football team and like just finding new ways to compete.
Yeah.
Like I love video games. I play like I don't play competitively, but like I take it like it's a competition.
Yeah.
And so like I'm very planning oriented. So I bought like the Jesse Itzler big ass
Dude,
calendar.
I just got that today.
It's
Hell
all
yeah.
over
I
TikTok.
have to hang it up in my
Yep.
kitchen.
So I'm like, I've always been that way, but now I'm like, now that's a tool that I've just used to be a lot more meticulous. One of the biggest things that I've ever done, which I'm going to challenge you guys to do, is I hired an executive assistant that understands the principles of a book called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell, which is one of the best books out right now, no doubt. I swear by that book.
Would you have the executive assistant read that book?
Yes, I had
As,
to
like,
read
part
the
of
book.
their training?
No, so I actually, one of my friends owns a staffing company for executive assistants that are only trained on the principles of that book.
Oh, wow.
So like,
Talk about
Dan Martell's
niche-
his personal mentor.
Talk
so
about
it's-
niche business
it's-
models.
It's the best business model I've ever experienced.
Did you
and
get the
it's-
executive assistant from him?
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And the service is like, in relativity to like the cost of value is like a billion.
My whole thing with the executive assistants, because this is something we always come back to, it's like,
Yeah.
like I don't know, like have them manage my email. Like I'll just go do it myself. Like, and that's like a dumb thought, obviously, but like if you're trying to sell like an executive assistant and why someone should hire them, like what does that actually look like in a day to day?
I would recommend, Taylor put me on this as well, is like doing a time audit. So I use
Yeah.
Asana as like my task management software of like every little minute task of like even like follow up with this guy or like make sure you book your sauna session at the gym. Like even
Yeah, like we were
that
talking
level.
about flights to Colorado or
Yeah.
getting the rental. You were like, I have my executive assistant check.
I mean, like, I have a PDF of every single thing I'm doing in Colorado and never thought about it once. It's all booked. And so with that, I did a time audit and I blocked things out red, yellow, and green. And I looked through all my meetings and all my task managers and I started to write down, like, looking through all these things and saying, what's red? Shit that just, like, is so monotonous, like booking the travel is like,
Yeah.
I know I got to get there. And it's kind of sometimes, like, I'll let them send me suggestions so I can pick the Airbnb until they really, like, get how I want it to be. But then like other things like making sure that invoices are paid or like just staying on top of things and moving things along in the CRM, like shit that needs to get done, but like doesn't need to get done by you. Like I don't need to be the one booking my sauna session for the week at the gym because like at the gym I go to, it's a great gym, but you have to like book out
Preserve
the sauna
it,
room
yeah.
and stuff. And so with that, I identified red, yellow, and green. And I'm confident that you're going to find a lot more red things in your life than you think.
green.
Because I
Yeah.
had the same, like, I don't want to tell you that you're experiencing a limiting belief.
Yeah,
but like,
it
it
definitely
is somewhat of a
is.
limiting
I
belief.
understand that it is too.
Because, like, I had the same exact reservations, like, oh, what the hell are they going to do? But
Yeah, I'll just book the flight. It takes me 5 minutes, whatever.
it is incredible. Once you start to realize the buy back your time concept is not to buy back your time so you could just go like lay on a beach, because I don't think any of us are wired to
No.
just like go chill. It's buying back your time so that you can focus on more higher leverage activity. And once you start to do the formula that the book says to identify what your actual buyback rate is based on the money that you're making, and it basically is like a legitimate formula based on like every task that is below this specific dollar amount, you have to delegate or you're literally losing money by not doing it. And so like dialing down to like what actually is your time worth and then identifying the things that juice you up the most and make you the most money in the business and then just going full speed ahead.
And would you discover those things were for you?
For me, more margin to create. I'm not a systems engineer, but I'm a client experience. I don't even want to say guru because that sounds terrible and like whatever that term I'm looking for is. I don't know, but basically, I am obsessed with client experiences. I think one of my best geniuses is like being able to learn about someone's business and identifying ways to make their client experiences better.
Have you read Unreasonable Hospitality?
Yes.
Yeah.
Incredible,
Fantastic
incredible.
book.
That was
Yes.
so good.
So totally in alignment of all the stuff that's going on,
Yeah.
because I just like going above and beyond. It just increases the perceived value of your offer without having to do anything that costs you more money or in labor or anything like
And it's
that.
fun.
Exactly. And you like it lights you up, it's exciting, and you're so confident in your offer that like now you just continue to just be lit up about it. And so what was the question that we were talking about? Sorry.
What were some of the things you identified?
Some of the things in
so
the green.
client experience.
So client experience, focusing on like the higher level systems, training people,
Yep.
because eventually like I have to go build out enterprise value. It's very tough to build enterprise value in consulting because it's so labor intensive and
Yeah.
like especially in the niche that we're in, you have to one have licenses to do some of the stuff that we do, and then two, like not everyone could just understand like, hey, you tell me about a problem, then I could go find a tax strategy for it. Like there's a lot of of intuitiveness.
Yeah.
And so we've created a model around like every call gets recorded. Every call has a junior advisor sitting in on the call for training purposes. Every client has a project manager around the whole project. Like literally nothing ever slips through the cracks. And sometimes like people hate me for it because it's just like, dude, like you are way over the top and so meticulous. But I would rather do that than a client ever question if we're working on their stuff.
Yep.
And so just that stuff that allows me to just continuously show up in a peak state for our clients and for everyone in my life. I've given myself the margin to not feel guilty about like, shit, I didn't go collect that invoice, or I didn't go book the travel and things like that. That's what is really happening.
That's
And it's
awesome.
allowed me to keep my thoughts synced for longer. So like, for example, this year I'm writing a book on this exact concept. I was challenged to write a book. I have zero intent of like this book going viral and selling all that or being a lead magnet, just for my own personal, like sitting down and actually taking the time to write a book. And so with that comes to like, I need to sit down for an hour or two and actually write the book. And if I'm sitting down for an hour and then I know in the back of my head that I haven't paid the invoice or booked the
You're
travel,
not really there with
you're
the
not
book.
fully attentive.
Yeah.
And so that's worth the X amount of dollars that I pay this person. That is, it's so much, the ROI is insane.
That's awesome, bro. Wow.
Sorry that I haven't been like it's tough to turn right.
Sorry, bro. No,
There's a
agree.
lot of us,
Unbelievable.
bro.
I feel like I've been doing like something on Slack, and then I go to check my email to pay rent, and then I'm like, what was I doing? I don't
Yep.
even-
We're professional multitaskers, but until we realize that multitasking is bullshit.
Yeah.
It's
impossible.
like it really is, and like we probably all do a great job of it, but a great job is like
Still
at
subpar.
like 50%.
Like
Yeah.
when I see an open calendar and I have like one thing to work on, I'm like, nice. Just
Yep.
do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Especially you're in the copywriting space, right? So
Yeah.
like that's like the whole time is
Dude,
all
it's
about
so
thinking
hard.
about new ideas,
Yeah.
and like part of that is just like for me what I've come to find is like it's tough to attach like if I read to then get thoughts to then write. How the hell is that going to make me money? I could just go call someone and get on a sales call, right?
Yeah.
But creating that system of knowing that long term that's going to work and that's going to create a lot more sustainability in your business is huge for sure.
Man.
Damn.
Sorry, I go off on rants. so
No,
cut me
this
off.
was this was phenomenal. What's one thing that you're focusing on right now, aside from writing the book, that's just super uncomfortable for you? Because we talked about kind of like optimizing for doing what you love. Like, is there a couple things there that you're trying to tackle, like new skills you're trying to develop currently?
Yeah, I'm actively becoming a runner.
Okay.
I'm shifting my identity to no longer being like someone who doesn't run. So I have not missed a 2 a day.
I'm firmly that person that was just like, I will never do cardio. I just left.
Yep.
That's it.
So I've embraced this hybrid athlete model, and I have not missed a 2 a day all year.
What's the 2 a day? Just 2 miles a
I
day?
run in the morning. No, I run in the morning and I work
Oh.
out at night.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I never like working out at night, but running in the morning has just been so much easier for me. And that's scaled into I'm going to run the New York City Marathon this year. And then
Oh,
like,
wow. Dude, you
ran
said
the-
after the Florida Marathon, you're never running another marathon.
which is why I've started to realize when I say I'm never going to do something, and I should probably put that on the priority list of
Do you
something.
think that's
that I
like
should
you
be
being
doing.
competitive with yourself in a way?
Yeah.
Like you're saying to yourself, I'm never going to do it. And you're like, well, watch me. Like an internal like
Yep.
conversation.
And then watch me do it and shave an hour and a half off the time, right? Because I think instead of showing other people watch me, like no one can compete with me more than myself.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's no one that I can like have fire me up or like inspire me more than than the motivation I give myself.
You set your own standard.
Yeah, exactly. And so like that's what juices me up of like proving myself wrong and
That's
leaning into
awesome.
the like when I identify a limiting belief.
And it's the
Squat
most
those
sustainable.
harder.
That's the only person you can guarantee that you'll be able to compete with till you die.
100%. 100%. Right now, my biggest burn is we work with a coach named Ben Newman. If you haven't listened to Ben Newman stuff, he is second to Ed Milet. He just got voted second to Ed Milet in top 5 performance coaches in the world.
Wow.
And Ben, you guys probably haven't even heard of him. Like, how crazy is that? Like, he's top 5.
Yeah, never.
He's
heard
going
of
to blow up big time. He's still, I mean, he's crushing it. Does multiple 8 figures and stuff. And he's been a coach of ours for a while. And he talks about this really cool concept called the burn. And the number one thing, like, this dude has been with the Alabama football team during their entire run, like coach
Wow.
Nick Saban through all this stuff, all these different things. And he's had everyone lean into this concept of the burn. Is like the one thing that truly lights you up. That, like, anytime you think about this burn, you're just gonna go run through a wall. And for him, it was like the legacy of his mom. I don't have something that powerful. Like, my parents are still alive, God willing. Hopefully they continue to live a great, healthy life. But for me, I'm constantly trying to recreate that burn because I sometimes like feel guilty for not having like the same struggles as, like, I never grew up like homeless or poor or lived out of a car and things. But everyone has their relative rock bottom.
Yeah.
And for me, the burn right now has been my future best self is still waiting to meet me. That's like the saying that I continue to say myself. Like, I have yet to meet my future best self. And I don't think I ever will. Like, it's always
I think
like a
that's the
target
whole
that's
point.
moving,
Yeah,
right?
it's like the McConaughey speech. Where,
Exactly.
like, he kept
Yep.
asking who his hero was, and he kept saying it's him 10 years from now.
Exactly. And so that's really what I've been leaning into right now is, like, at least let me go chase that guy. And then parlay that with the McConaughey with what Ed Milet says is like, hey, when I die and Judgment Day comes, like, I want to be able to look my best self in the mirror, and that's actually
Yeah,
who I
like when
became,
you're at the gates of heaven, he's like there to shake your hand. You want to like recognize the guy and not be a total stranger.
Yep.
I love that.
I'm to answer your question a little bit more directly, I'm leaning into more of a leadership style of my life, of learning. That's been the most uncomfortable part of my life because, like, I've been able to get away by just sheer brute force for so long. Because you could get to a certain point just by, like, willing it that way and not really caring about anyone's feelings. But to scale, you need obviously more leverage, and that comes with people. And my ability to communicate with people, while I feel like I do a decent job of listening, I struggle with the empathy side of things because I don't fully relate as to why someone doesn't do something. And as you can probably tell, like, I talk really fast. Like, people might have to put this podcast on 0.5x because it's only like 1.5. And so I have these crazy ideas in my head, and, like, I can understand, like, SOPs quickly. And when I'm trying to translate that, I get upset when people don't understand it when I just talk to them at warp speed.
Yeah.
So that's been a really exciting thing because I feel like I guess, again, I'll speak for myself, but we've all read these leadership books over time, but they don't really hit until you actually start to step into a leadership role where it's like, wow, let me go back to listen to John Maxwell talk about this stuff a little bit more.
Bro, that's been me too recently. Like Jocko Willink. I used to read his books in high school, and I'm like, this is like whatever. And then now I'm like in it, and I'm like, dude, I got to go back and revisit those concepts.
100%, man. So that's been definitely the most challenging. I think that's the hardest part of building a business in general.
Because it's the one thing you can't control is other people.
Yep.
You've always played this game, like you were saying, internally with yourself. Like, you can always control the things you wake up and do. But now when it comes down to other people, it's like, it's a scary thought.
That's why I might just continue outsourcing to guys like you for performance-based stuff. Because, like, I think performance-based is a culture that we're continuing
It's the
to try
safest
and
bet.
100%, man. And if you could build and parlaying that with, I've been in this season of saying parlaying a lot. So sorry.
Big sports.
Getting me
better.
excited. I'm going to go put in some bets after this.
So actually, don't
Mahomes.
sports bet.
Wait,
That's a
who are
story
we
that-
parlaying
I'll
for
tell
the
you guys
Super
after
Bowl?
this.
He doesn't bet.
Super Bowl bet? I don't know. I don't even have one. Really upset about Dan Campbell and how he managed the Lions game the other day.
Just
But
Oh my goodness.
Doesn't believe in field
Allergic
goals.
to field goals.
terrible,
Yeah.
dude. Like, there's aggressiveness and then there's stupidity.
It was the run on third down was really the dumbest thing in the whole game.
And
Even dumber
that,
than
like,
field goals.
No, I think trying to, like, you got to tie the game when it's 4th and 1 when you're on the 30.
Yeah.
Dude.
Like, come on. It's just 6 minutes left, man. But regardless, I don't even know the train of thought that I was having. But, parlaying that with paying people really, really generously.
Yeah.
Creating massive win-win scenarios so that you can continue to secure the best talent without having to worry about getting the talent at a discount. And I think we're at a season right now where we're talking in this podcast in January of 2024, where the market is starting to take a really weird shift over the next couple of years, which is why we preach so hard on, like, staying liquid and keeping a really healthy balance sheet, because you're going to be able to hire top-tier talent at a discount over these next couple of years, because your competitors, if they don't plan right by building liquidity and
They won't have
avoiding a
the
bunch of fixed
capital.
OPEX, they're going to go out of business. you're going to be able to buy their client book at a discount and all of their employees at a massive discount. And so,
And that CEO.
Exactly.
As somebody to come into your business.
Which is the guy? Yeah, that's the hire.
Which is why we always preach keeping your balance sheet in alignment with your vision, because if you put all of the money to work inside of active participating market stuff like the S&P, and I don't want to get into a space of like investment advice, but like Bitcoin and things like that on your balance sheet, when you need the liquidity to go take advantage of a downturn, you lost most of your money during that downturn.
Yeah.
So you'd rather, in my opinion, continue to double down on what's already working, which your best predictable ROI is your business. If I can continue to get 50% on my business, what the hell do I need to go invest in anything else?
Yeah.
Let me go keep the money liquid and find ways to double down on that concept. And then when the market shifts down 40%, I can go buy assets at a discount in any which way.
Bro, I swear the smartest people or the most wealthy people all say the same thing. We talk a lot on this podcast, and guys in general, entrepreneurs, like always talk about like outside investments like Bitcoin and the stock market and like where they can get a return. And like all the smartest guys always come back to like, dude, just focus on your business. That is the number one return no matter what.
100%.
Everything else is kind of just a distraction and it's going to take away from what the business can do for you.
Yep. I think
love
people
that.
have this massive misconception of like, oh, passive income, passive income. Like if you're buying real estate, in the season that we're in right now, we should be buying real estate for the tax advantages and the debt pay down over time. Because that massive debt pay down is going to result in a ton of equity. You can refinance for a large amount or get a really large exit. But the cash flow, if you're so active in your business, you don't have time to build a cash flow empire in
No.
real estate.
No.
So everyone's thinking about passive income, but like if I build a life that's designed around things that juice me up, why the hell would I not want to continue to go make as much active income as possible? I love building.
Yeah.
I'm an operator at heart. So like I love all this shit. Great, let me build in mechanisms to make it passive to where like if I step away for 2 weeks, the business not only like stays the same but grows.
Yeah, continues.
So like let me scale that way. But I'm a believer in doing that through business. And that's just kind of my sentiment around it. Not to say other asset classes are not great.
Not at all.
But I'm just like venture capital at heart for sure. So
Yeah, I'm the same way now. So convinced on it, especially going for like a big exit play. Like my whole thing is like, dude, you're one exit away from like completely changing your life.
literally, and that's the tough part, because when you start to see a significant revenue number hit, the mindset switch, this was huge for us because we went from sales, which is just like, I work, I make income.
Commission.
To now it's like, this is revenue. This is business. Now I have to figure out a way to like sustainably pay myself. And as the revenue goes up, I still have to keep that same pay. And then eventually like I could scale, maybe take a larger like distribution as a bonus and things like that. That's why I quoted that Profit First book, because I think a lot of people below maybe like 50 million can actually really start to implement this pretty well, because it's a foolproof system to make sure that you never like out expense your business, basically, because it forces you to operate your business on a certain margin. So that's what excites me.
Which is important because like you got like when you're saying on one side like pay people well, like better than anyone else can pay them, but also profit first. Like these are concepts that you have to just master over time.
And then when it's a whole different side of things when you're looking to only exit the business.
Yeah.
Right. One, a beautiful tax strategy that I left out is like, if you truly are looking to exit, look into QSBS.
Yeah,
I don't fully recommend everyone switch to a C
It's a
corp.
5-year thing. That's the only thing.
That's the challenge.
Our timeline's a lot shorter.
Okay,
Or at
so
least, I mean, you can't really plan ahead, but our timeline is super short.
And then like, if you have to switch to a C corp, then you're getting double
Double
taxed. Yeah,
taxed.
it's not as exciting.
Our
But,
whole thing with Listkit, like just to kind of peel back the curtain, it's like we have client ascension and all the other things that we're doing to cash flow and provide the lifestyle that we need or want to live. And then Listkit's just the home run play. Like if it works out, great. If not, like we still have like our main business.
Yeah.
And so we're just throwing everything back in it. That's it.
Highly recommend doing it. And that's where sometimes your margins get compressed doing that, but when you're chasing a top line revenue number to then eventually exit at a specific multiple, sure, do it.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like really just creating the awareness around that. And what I've come to find is that I initially had this limiting belief when I stepped into this space that we're in, is like people that make a bunch of money know what they're doing. It could not be further from the truth. Like, especially like we work with a lot of service-based people, like law firms, people that own private practice physicians, construction companies, general contracting, landscaping, all those things. Like, they're really good at like focusing on that stuff. They know what a 2x4 is, but they don't know what a P&L is.
Yeah.
And so where we really help them is creating that unbiased, like, I don't have any equity in their company, so like I don't care if they take my advice or not, but I'm going to give them the most strategic, unbiased advice for their benefit, because business is emotional. And a lot of us, no matter how much we try and detach our emotions from something that we love, it's still our
Impossible.
baby. So if we have someone that's super objective about these moves that we're making and we trust them and they go build a team around that, that's kind of where we fit into the model.
That's awesome. Yeah, dude. This has been super valuable.
Thank you. I enjoy this stuff, but I get rant.
Oh, it's
No,
good
it's the
though.
best.
That's the whole point. I think
That's
that's
what we
like
prefer.
my biggest pet peeve with podcasters is like the host tries to like be the main
Sure.
actor. And it's just like you never get a good podcast out of that. You just got to ask good questions and let the guy go.
I haven't been going on podcasts enough. I'm usually just the guy sitting back asking the questions. So anytime I get to
just
hop
gotta
on, I'm just
unleash.
like, let's go. Let's flow.
Unleash, bro. Yeah, I mean, just delivering a lot of value through sharing stories and concepts. A lot of concepts. Kind of reminded me of like the Ty Lopez episode with like the build
Yeah.
analogy and everything. So it's super valuable, super actionable. Dude, what does your Jesse Itzer calendar look like? You already set it all up and
Yep,
everything?
we're all set up. I have 245 working days this year.
Okay.
The rest is built around freaking
Travel
insane
and
events.
experiences.
Yeah,
And
they got the Masogi, the Masters.
that's the Misogi?
Yeah, like it's just like such an
Yeah,
awesome
dude.
thing.
Yeah. Of
course.
You know, running the New York City Marathon is going to be really cool.
Yep.
Traveling to see family. We'll do a couple Taylor Welch events.
Yep.
We were thinking about going to Tomorrowland.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Which is like,
Where is that?
That's in Belgium.
In Belgium. Okay.
And Landon's running Ironman that same weekend,
Oh,
so I'm going to
okay.
go to Lake Placid to support him.
yeah, good
And,
move.
yeah, so we got this travel coming up, but really I'm in a season of we just moved to Tampa, so I
Yep.
want to get my feet here. Like, there's something to say about, yes, we can build our entire business on the internet, but having a true like market
Yeah.
and a presence in an area
Yeah.
is awesome, man. Especially in a space like this. Like, this is a fucking cool city, dude.
And it's
like,
growing, dude.
it's growing really rapidly. It's becoming the new like professional style Miami, how
Yes.
like Miami really rapidly grew,
Yeah.
but this is like the people that are building some real shit are coming, and they're young and they're hungry and they're
Yep.
excited and they're open to collaboration. A lot of people are faith focused. Like,
Yep.
I'm really excited about where this city is taken and like what life has in store. So
Yeah. I'm super bullish on Tampa too.
big time.
Yeah, bro.
Hell yeah.
Christian's practically the mayor of Tampa. This man just protects it at
I
all
ran
costs
into a
on
fellow
TikTok.
Tampa ambassador today on my run.
Yeah?
Some other Tampa TikTok kid saw him. I was like, yo.
That's amazing. When did you guys? How long have you guys been here for?
2 years.
2 years. Okay,
Yeah.
so you
Yeah.
practically lived here your whole life.
Oh, yeah.
As far as like Tampa residents go, yeah, we're probably like past the 50%.
Me and Landon were talking. It's like no one's actually from Tampa. They
No
just
one.
moved to Tampa.
No one.
Literally,
You
it's
meet
like-
as many people from New York as you do from actually.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to think.
Yeah.
The only boys that we have that are from Tampa, Chandler, Daniel, I guess, is from surrounding areas, but yeah, it's very rare that somebody's actually from here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So,
exciting, bro.
I got a question that's a little off topic.
Sure.
Why are more accountants not based?
Yeah. Great question. So
Like, we feel like this, accountants
CPAs
are not,
specifically.
the
Yes.
client service is not there.
So you have to think about it from like a lens of their business model. It is not profitable to build a business model around just helping people save money in taxes, which somehow we found a way to do it. But like you have to offer, like we built 5 vertically integrated companies inside of this
Wow.
this brand. So like there's all different sides of things.
Yeah.
But for a person that runs a CPA firm, the most profitable way to do it is by finding a ton of people that could just easily, like you could file simple tax returns.
Yeah.
That's it. And just be a tax return machine. And so in that process, they only care about making sure you don't get audited and that your return's filed on time. And then
Yeah.
hopefully you pay. Other than that, they're not too concerned with saving you money. There are some good ones that'll get on a call and give you some strategy, but no one's begging you to speak with them on a monthly basis to talk about strategy. That's where we initially started to like immediately see the effects of like filling that gap. Where if I'm meeting with a business owner every month, our requirement to work with a business owner is that they have to have books. So like if you don't have a bookkeeper, you're going to get a bookkeeper. We don't do bookkeeping in-house, but like eventually we're going to buy a tax firm probably in
Smart.
Q4 this year because we've just outsourced so much business. And so with that, if you know your data, one, you can start proactively actually saving for taxes and putting that away. And then 2, you can start running tax strategy and being proactive around it. So like, for example, the Augusta rule. Are you guys familiar with the Augusta rule?
Yeah.
So like you don't have to own the home. You can do it with your primary residence where you live.
Like an
inherently,
apartment.
right?
Yeah, even if it's rented.
So you can do that. And like you guys are all business partners, so you can manage the meetings of just having business partner meetings and client ascension events and all that stuff. Easy money. 100% qualify. All 4 of you guys qualify. That's a large deduction at the business level on money that you're already going to put into your pocket regardless. So now you're just taking a business deduction and putting the money back into your pocket for tax free. That's not going to move your needle forward, but it's an extra couple grand that you're not going to pay the government.
Yeah.
What's really big right now, which we're monitoring, is if bonus depreciation goes back to 100%, that will make buying retail real estate at scale really attractive.
Like commercial?
So just retail investors that want to buy the one single family, because like the major tax benefits from real estate came initially from doing a cost segregation study on a commercial real estate building. Are you familiar with a cost segregation study and the nuances around there?
No.
So I just launched a firm 5 months ago that does this, and it's doing it's so blessed. I love it. And so with that, cost segregation. Let's say you own a single family home, right? When you own a single family investment property, that goes on a 27.5-year depreciation schedule. So even though like you project the real estate to go up in value, you're going to have a bunch of equity go into it. The value of the property, like the actual like wear and tear, depreciates over 27.5 years, just like your car does.
Yep.
And so every year you legally have to take the purchase price minus the land value, divide that by 27.5. You have to take that off of your tax return. It's like as a loss. Most people can only take that as a passive loss. So you just gather all these passive losses because we have no passive income as business owners. We have active income. If you're able to qualify as a real estate professional, or if you own a short-term rental, or if you have a spouse that could qualify as a real estate professional, which there's nuances around it, but you have to prove like a large amount of participation in real estate. You can then take all of that against your active income, which is cool. So like, let's say you own $1 million property, divided by 27.5, it's like 36 grand. You could take that against your tax return against like your business income this year. When you do a cost segregation study, you could get about 30 to 35% of the entire value of the property in year one.
Right up front.
Year
yeah.
one.
Insane.
The study costs a couple grand, but instead of getting a $36,000 deduction, you get like a $300,000 deduction. And if bonus depreciation comes back to 100%, that makes the $500,000 property still super attractive from a tax saving standpoint.
Yeah.
Where it really came from was like commercial property goes on a 39-year schedule. So when you do cost segregation, even without the bonus depreciation, it's still putting it on like shorter schedules that allow you to accelerate the depreciation up front. But it's super attractive with the whole laws in the tax right now.
That's sick.
So that's something that we're monitoring. The management companies for you guys are going to be a big deal with having partnerships, utilizing things like pass-off income strategies. There's, if you have kids, putting them on your payroll inside of a single-member LLC, things like that. So basically just like understanding where you're at and then building an entire tax plan around. And I don't think the goal is to pay $0 in taxes, because ultimately you're going to need leverage to scale if you want to scale rapidly. Like you guys have been bootstrapping ListKit, but like eventually if you want to take it to the stratosphere, maybe you might need to take on some debt from the bank at some point. And if you show no income, you're not getting debt. Yeah. It's just not going to happen. And so we need to be able to, like, if you make $1 million net at the end of the day, your taxes are going to be, let's say in Florida, it's 37% exact because we don't know state tax. But in some states, you're owing 50% of your income. If we can then take that and move you to a 10 to 15% tax bracket, you're only paying 150 grand as opposed to 500 grand.
Yep.
That delta is all tax free. You can go buy more real estate or go reinvest back into the business. So it's not about paying zero. It's about getting your adjustable gross income down to a comfortable, manageable amount that you can at least pay and also still be attractive to the banks.
Yep, to make more moves. Yeah, dude, it's funny. Like, we've been in business for 5 or 6 years together now, us three, as an LLC. And then the LLC owns like a portion of ListKit and owns a portion of Client Ascension. So we do all the pass-throughs and everything.
So you got like a holding company style?
Yeah, holding company. And then, so we have all that. And it's all through learnings too. And I think our problem past 2 or 3 years is like we just have a CPA or an accountant and they do our taxes. And then we're always pissed off come tax season that like they didn't try to help us. The thing that I did differently is I hired Matt Moore's brother, Mitch, and he's like a financial planner. And like that made all the difference. It's like he's going to war for me to like plan my taxes way in advance. And then it doesn't matter who my CPA is. He's getting on a call with them and telling them exactly like this tax strategy to implement for me when they go out and do the taxes. And like that changed everything.
It's crazy. We know probably 90% more than normal CPAs do.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Just
They're
because
like
we're like so involved in like
shocked.
the planning space. Yeah, it's like I just had a call the other day with a client when I get on the phone with a client's CPA, I ease them into it. So like I get the lube involved in the beginning. So it's like I give them like the cookie cutter stuff initially. Like, hey, like maybe we should like transition them to an S corp or like lower the W-2 or maybe let's look into the Augusta rule. And they're like, if I get like a answer of like, what's that? Or like, oh, no, not at all. And I have like substantiation around like, this is definitely a strategy we can use. They need to get fired.
Yeah.
It just is what it is. And so like, I would say 70% of our clients probably replace their CPAs to
it's
the
so
network
common.
of CPAs we have.
So common.
Yeah.
Bro, we were at the Cole Gordon. I was telling these guys, like, we were at a Cole Gordon event. There was like a VIP session, and he has his tax and finance guy there just giving tax strategies. And one of the ones was like a QBI deduction, which is like huge, right? And it like expires in a year or two. And like I threw that to the CPA, they didn't really say anything. And then I like told my financial planner, and they were like, yeah, like you should get it. And they like drafted an entire letter to the CPA as to why we should qualify for it.
Yep.
And like that changed it. Like
100%.
right there.
You get a 20% haircut on all of the qualified business income. And that's where you can toy with your W-2 if you have an S corp of making sure that you're doing it in such a way to where you're paying less in payroll taxes but also maximizing the QBI. Eventually it phases out at a certain point, so like as you guys continue to scale 8 figures and beyond, it's like it's not really relevant. But still something that should be looked at. That's the problem. Is
that's it. It's like they're not even trying.
They don't get paid any extra to go do the extra work.
Yeah.
And so anytime that they have one of their tax preparers focusing on that stuff, that's another tax return that they could have filed. Think about it. When you do that at scale, that's an extra $1,500 every time.
That's just what we never understood. It's like,
model.
oh, they're not going to war for us. They're not based. It's like because it doesn't make sense for them to be.
Yep. There's the good ones out there though. They're out there. We need good CPAs. So it's not about eradicating and shitting on CPAs. It's about like forcing the industry to move forward in a more of a proactive way to serve the small business owner better.
We're just setting the higher standard, right? Like if a CPA is not looking out for you the right way and they're not properly educated, they're just not going to have a book of business.
Yep. And then on the other side of the coin, as a client, as somebody that owns a business, if your only answer, because I come across this a lot, is my CPA does everything, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck. Have fun. If that's your answer and you want it to be that way, then like I don't even want to work with you if you're not open-minded in that world. So
Yeah.
Like to start, we never even had like a fractional CFO. It was literally just
A CPA.
Just a CPA. That's it.
I think, and that's fine, right? When you first scale, right? It's like when you first start out, it's like the hell you need a fractional.
Yeah, you
CFO.
shouldn't obsess over like saving in taxes. Like,
it's like
first
guys,
make
like,
the business
we're
work.
making $0. Who the fuck's going to manage anything, right? But then as you continue to grow, I think like having some type of fractional bookkeeper to take it off your plate, knowing your numbers, scaling into a good CPA, having a team like a Mitch. I love Mitch, great guy, does really good work. I think of it as like, I'm trying to brand this as like building out your fractional family office.
I love what you said earlier
because
about that.
Family offices don't really, like, you're talking like 30 million net worth plus is when you start to like build out your own in-house family office. But as a business owner that's growing, making a ton of money, you still need all of those players on your team, but they need to be there for your benefit, not theirs.
Yeah.
And when you have this discrepancy of people that aren't communicating with each other, everyone's giving you different opinions based on how they get paid. And so when you hire someone like a Mitch or like our firm, when we do that, we get paid through the fee, through a consulting fee that never changes. So we're unbiased in our recommendations because we're getting paid regardless of what you're doing. And so we're making sure that everyone's in alignment for your benefit, not theirs. And that's I think, the model that's starting to shift. And we want to pioneer that before it becomes the standard.
Yeah.
And so we're aggressively continuing to implement new systems around creating more deliverables around it.
So cool, bro. Yeah, you guys are crushing, bro. Crushing. I'm excited to see that growth continue too. And that's like capitalism working at its finest, is just let the best service providers win at the end of the day. That's really what it comes down to.
Agreed, man. Agreed. You guys are freaking on the money. On the money. Changed our lives. Just changed the way we think. We just started implementing cold emails, going live this week actually. But like I have a deeply rooted faith that it's going to work. Because like we've built a different side of the business just on cold email, and we've done it to much tougher avatars, which were just resident doctors that are like really tough to communicate
Resident
with.
doctors. They're
And so,
never
like,
checking their email.
And we built an entire business model around it where we would like invite them to a dinner series and then just do a non-obligation dinner, and then like 90% of the room would book a call with us. And implementing that at scale to people that truly have like a really large pain point, I think it's going to work big time. So
Hell yeah.
I'm excited.
We're excited too.
Hell yeah.
Super exciting, bro. Exciting times ahead, man.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Always
Yes,
something
sir.
to
Dude, it
look
really
forward to.
is.
But
So much shit going on. I'm going to take a page out of your book. My last question is for you and the company. I know that you talked about kind of being the first to pioneer this business model, but long term, what's your vision? Like, is this a company that you want to exit one day? Is it a company that you just want to grow into 1,000 people? What's kind of on your mind?
Yeah. So the way that it works is like the way that our business model works is we're basically like we franchise based off that guy, like the guy that bought the 30% of it, right? And so we are working our way towards ownership of the main hub, and that main hub is going to sell for $1 billion over the next 10 years, no doubt. Like that's where, and we're really paving the way towards like we've really transformed the way that the business is run, and our business right now we are really just making an absolute cash flow machine to then just continue to vertically integrate along every single solution, because I love being able to. I had this limiting belief initially of like, how can I stay unbiased if I provide every solution? Because now it's just a big cross sell.
Yeah.
But clients truly value good experience. So like, if I'm going to pay you a fee and then you pay like, and then you guys, like if I paid you guys your fee to source this person, then you own a badass software that's going to get me leads, I'll happily pay you again instead of go finding someone else.
Yeah. If they do a good enough job, you're almost sad when they send you away.
Exactly. And so with that, like, I don't ever want to have to send people away. So like, I'm a big proponent of being able to say no to things, because that's really, a huge superpower. But also, I don't think God put us on this earth to say no. I think he put us on this earth to find a way to say yes.
Ooh,
and so maybe
I
it's
like
no
that.
for the short term, but how can I continue to say yes to more people to impact that scale? So my next venture, in my opinion, is like coaching lights me up.
Yeah.
But I'm not that kind of guy I'm not going to try and teach people to build a 9-figure business when I haven't built a 9-figure business.
Yep.
But I can easily and wholeheartedly teach people how to go from 6 to 7. And so with that, that juices me up, because like that just, I don't know, something about like just talking, as you guys could probably have told by the last hour and a half that we've gone through. I just love it.
Ed Milet even talks about like serving the past version of yourself through the problems that you had to go
Exactly.
through. Like, that
because
is fulfillment.
My 22-year-old self needed me right now.
Yes.
And so I think I have the ability to articulate that and create a really badass offer around that can then, one, obviously feed into this to create a journey, ultimately builds the moat, right? So that people that don't fit our mold for that offer, we can still capture as an audience and then nurture into our higher ticket programs. But less from a business model and more of a rate of return on impact, in my opinion, because I think that allows me to get more content out. Eventually something will go viral. Eventually I'll have a larger platform. And as I continue down my faith journey, it's eventually going to lead more people to Jesus. And I believe that.
Oh, that's great.
And that's what I'm excited about, dude. Like, that's like, that's everything. That's the vision,
goal.
dude. And I'm taking it day by day in that sense. But I struggle because the vision always changes, but it's always changing in a larger way, because what you believed was possible even yesterday, you're learning new information that ultimately, or meeting somebody new that is ultimately changing and shaping.
Yeah, that could just increase it.
Yeah, as long as it's growing and not shrinking, I'd say you're moving in the right direction.
Yes,
That was a pretty damn good answer.
Super good answer, bro. Man, yeah. This has been a really good one, dude.
I appreciate you guys giving me the platform, man.
Hell yeah.
This has been
Of course.
fun.
Absolutely. There's
Thank you
really
so
no
much.
better way to like sit down and connect and learn about someone new, like than
100%.
podcasting.
100%. And I'll go back to saying, like, that's maybe one thing that I'll leave any listener with. I'm not sure the exact client archetype that watches this, but let's say, assume it's young entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I'm very firm in this belief, and it might be very polarizing, but I'm super bullish on it. I'll argue to the death of it. One, because selfishly it's worked for my life, but if you are in your 20s and just getting into the world of entrepreneurship, or if you've been in entrepreneurship and you don't have a podcast, you are leaving so much money, relationship capital, fulfillment, enjoyment, all of it off the table.
Experiences. Oh my
Because
God.
we struggle to connect in a way that, like, I think in the beginning, when you're first starting out in business, like, you need clients. Like, you need, like, people to buy your shit.
Yeah.
But if you could start building out goodwill and no longer thinking through, like, 1 + 1 = 2. If I have a podcast, 1 + 1 can amplify and equal more, because now my focus is not to make you guys clients. My focus is to give you guys so much value that eventually maybe you'll allow me to speak in front of your ecosystem over time or something like that.
Yeah.
And we can eventually merge ecosystems for both of our mutual benefits. Those ecosystem mergers leads to us giving each other a stage and a microphone all the time. Now we're subject matter experts in each other's community.
Yeah.
That leads to sales meetings, eventually leads to sales, more disposable income to do more impact with. And so that's the formula.
It's the flywheel, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, it's beautiful
So,
too.
start a podcast.
Start a podcast. It's
In
really
person.
easy to. Yeah,
If
in
possible.
person.
Yeah.
podcast.
I'll take
It's-
a page out of
dude,
your
it's
best
so
playbook
much
for
fun
sure.
in person. It's a challenge, but
Definitely
it's-
makes the connection deeper. Where
Yeah, just the
not
conversation.
just a Zoom
is-
call.
Yeah, kudos to the boys for producing their own at this point, man.
Yeah.
Well
Sir.
done.
hopefully it comes out.
Yeah. Hopefully we get some color and
Yeah, if
audio.
it doesn't.
yeah, at this point there's no audio actually.
I was gonna say.
It's right there. It's like the
Well.
vitals.
I know.
Fucking,
I'm like looking at it. I'm
hospital.
like, we got to wrap this thing up before the computer
Yeah.
dies.
Yeah.
Well, boys, thank you so much. It's been an
Absolutely,
absolute
bro.
pleasure.
Hell yeah.
It's
man.
been a pleasure. Last thing for our audience is where can they find you, follow you, and connect? Because at this point,
Yeah, they're
They
probably
got
already
to.
found a
Sure.
way.
So the Instagram I'm probably most active is Vaglica, Vaglica. Do whatever you want with that last name. I know I've heard a lot of stuff about.
We got
My-
Christian Boner over here.
There we go. Attaboy. Fuck yeah. Vaglica and Boner. There we go. My website's AntonioVaglica.com, and then you could go to our business website, GFGSolutions.com. And then I'm very active on that. I'll always answer my DMs. I don't have appointment setters, so like we're just
Love it.
just looking to impact.
love it, bro. Well, dude, thanks again for coming
dude.
on, sharing
Appreciate
your
it, man.
story.
This was dope.
This was
Appreciate you
awesome.
guys. Thank
Fire.
you.